didn't even introduce yourself.
I didn't even introduce myself. Wow, I knew going in.
We have to learn how to love kids.
I really learned myself.
85% of our calls are EMS.
And that's not only for police, but it is for firefighters and 911 telecommunicators.
Our last guest is going to be a great show today.
Mm-hmm.
God said, come as you are, right?
You gotta go down memory lane. Oh, man. No, that was really cool.
Great conversation, you guys. Wow.
You know it feels so good.
Good morning, Joy, 1340 a.m. listeners. We are back in the studio this morning. I am Officer Ralph McClain, the Milwaukee Police Department, with the Office of Community Relations, Engagement, and Recruitment. You saw how I slowed that down? I just wanted to make sure.
You got it right.
And we are back in the studio this morning, and I'm here with my co-host.
Yes, sir. My name is Jordan Dickerson. I am one of the recruiters with the City of Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission, and we are back with episode 46 of The Conversation.
Episode 46 of The Conversation. We are into November already. And
This year been flying by. For real.
everywhere I go, I see Christmas decorations in the stores. It's just, I'm not.
You see how they just jump past Thanksgiving like that?
Yeah. Just skip all past. You don't see no turkeys.
Nuh-uh.
You don't see no, what's the other little stuff they put, like corn husk? When they put
Yeah,
it?
you don't see
straight
none
to
of it.
Christmas.
Mhm.
Straight to Christmas. We have a great guest on hand for today. Before I introduce our guest, we will say that the Milwaukee Police Department is hiring for police officers. So those who want to embark and jump on this wonderful, noble profession of ours, I may be a little biased in saying that, of course, but feel free to go to the City of Milwaukee Jobs website, fill out the application. It is posted 11 months out of the year. There's information there. If you ever need to talk to someone, questions about the process itself, we will be here for you for that reason. And we also would like to say that our police aid apprenticeship for graduating seniors application is still up on the website. It will be there until December 6th. But with more information regarding both, Jordan would have some things to pass to.
Yeah, so if you ever have any questions about either the police aid program or just being a police officer, you can feel free to text this number right here. It's 414-519-6190. Again, that's 414-519-6190. You can text that number, ask any questions that you may have. Just have people asking us questions today about, like, even for firefighter, like, hey, when are applications open up? So you can always text that number. Myself and the other recruiter, we actually respond to those messages directly. And then even just speaking about the police aid program again, it's just a really good opportunity for our youth, ages 17 to 20 years old. Just be able to get provided with great mentorship around you. I think that's so important for our youth to be led on the right path. It's important that you have the right people to guide you and to lead you and steer you in that path. So in that police aid program, that's what you kind of get involved with when you join that program.
Absolutely, Brother Jordan, that is exactly right. And I would like to say quickly, myself and Officer Dominique D.T. Thompson had a wonderful time this past Saturday with the organization 100 Black Men
I've seen
of
that
Milwaukee.
on Facebook.
Yes, talking with the youth there, just giving them some inspiration, motivation to continue to stay positive and to believe in themselves. So that was a wonderful time.
That's good.
By the time this episode airs, also I will have done the Fatherhood Summit.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're both doing that.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that as well. In the studio today, we have Dorian Ratliff, who is a sergeant with the Milwaukee Police Department, the CART team, which stands for Crisis Assessment Response Team. She has been with the department for 18 years, starting at District 3, and she moved on to the old version of what we are now, which is OCO, the Office of Community Outreach and Education, as a school resource officer. She started as a sergeant at District 5, and now she is with the Crisis Assessment and Response Team. She is a graduate of the wonderful College of Concordia University with a Bachelor in Criminal Justice and a Master's in Public Relations. we would like to welcome this morning in the studio Sergeant Ratliff. How you doing?
Good.
Yes, welcome,
Thanks for
welcome.
having me, guys.
No, I appreciate you for joining. You know,
Exactly.
we had to pull your hand a little bit, but you finally end up coming on, so I appreciate it.
But thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah,
glad
most
to be here.
Most definitely.
Well, we're glad you are here. You know, we always welcome fellow Chicagoans into the studio.
I know
here.
that's right.
I did not know you was from
Yes, I am. Born and raised
Born and
See?
raised. And what side of town?
on the north side of town.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing sometimes you talk to people up here, or I have. This has been my experience. Always, usually, it's the south side. You know, I'm like, hey, what side of town? South side, south side. You know, but yeah, north side.
Yeah.
Where
Well, we
about
started on the west. My
Okay.
mom moved us to the north. No, for better
Mm.
opportunities, I guess. But I was so young. I'm the
Okay.
youngest of four, so all I know is the north side.
Okay.
Oh, okay. When did you make that transition and move to Milwaukee?
When I'm 20.
Oh, you were 20?
Mm-hmm.
So how was that time growing up in Chicago? And like, have you seen like differences from growing up in Chicago and growing up and like you know spending your time in Milwaukee?
Differences? I can remember first coming here
Mhm.
and thinking like, where is everything? Compared to Chicago, like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just,
It's a
it
big
was
city.
totally different. Yeah.
Uh huh.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
good.
I can remember, and I can relate. I remember when I first started driving up to Milwaukee,
Mm.
right? Because my son was here first, my infant son. And as I was driving, all of a sudden I started seeing these barns, and these horses on the saddle. I'm like, where in the world am I
Where are
going?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then it's a little bit different when you get
When
here.
you get to Milwaukee,
Yeah,
actually
than it is
Milwaukee.
Chicago.
And we always hear that too. Like I remember my brother, he was going down to school in Bethune-Cookman out there in Daytona Beach, and you're like, oh yeah, we got anybody from you know, I think we got somebody from Wisconsin and everything, not knowing that, you know, of course he's from Milwaukee. So they're like, oh, all y'all got out there is you know, cheese and cows and farms and stuff. And it's like, well, Milwaukee is like actually a city and everything, but a lot of people don't, you know, they don't understand that part. But it's all good.
It is, it is. If you don't mind me asking, Sarge, what about on the west side did you start off at?
I was so young, I can't even tell you. I couldn't even tell
What
you.
about on the north side? Was it far north?
It was far north.
Okay, so
And it is you know, they all have their own names. I
Yeah.
cannot think of it.
Yeah,
offhand.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. Because when I grew up down there, I grew up like all over the west side.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Well, where on the west side?" I'm like, "What part
Mhm.
didn't I grow up on the west
Right.
side?"
I
So-
tell people, if you know where Von Steuben High School
Mhm.
is,
Yep.
Roosevelt High School,
Exactly.
our house was 2 blocks from Von Steuben High School.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So-
And that's not far from my high school because I went to Foreman. So
Oh, did you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice, that's nice. Well, yeah, let's get into it. So, okay, Chicago native. I guess I could still rock with you. It's okay. But Chicago native. So how?
Where'd you gotta get Chicago?
It's just the Bears. That's all it is. That's really all it is. I ain't got nothing against the people. It's just the Bears. But so yeah, how was it growing up in Chicago? What was young Dorian like? You know, like how was your lifestyle? And you know, was policing something that you thought of? You know, at a young age.
I did always want to be police. I know it sounds cheesy, but it is something that I wanted to do, and I remember saying this is something that I wanted to do, but not actually seeing that it was something that I was going to do, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. We grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, all white schools, and when I became was 17, I
Mhm.
moved out of my childhood home.
Okay.
So
17.
17.
I can't imagine moving out on my own at 17.
I don't want to take up the time with
Yeah.
talking about that, but I kind of grew up in a dysfunctional home.
Mhm.
So I had to leave early.
Yeah.
There were police at my house. I had 2 older brothers who my mom and dad did their best to try to, I mean, they raised us all right, the best they could.
Yeah.
But, you know, there still were those temptations for my brother, gangs
Mhm.
and other things. So
Yeah.
the police were at our house.
Mhm.
And I can remember being the youngest of 4, seeing the interactions with my family and police. You know, it wasn't that always the nicest. And I would say, because it was honorable back then, not that it's not honorable
Yeah.
now, an honorable profession. Like, I can do better than that, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I moved out when I was 17. I moved here when I was 20. I had a child here. I got married here in that 20 age.
Yeah.
So a couple of years later, I found myself divorced and raising my son. So what is it that I can do to be able to provide for him? And it just happened that law enforcement came, and I just felt like it was just something that the Lord wanted me to do.
Yeah.
So I ended up here and followed that, because deep down I remember as a child saying I want to be a police.
I feel like that's you guys something to say.
Did I go off the?
No, you good, you
No, that's
good.
good,
It's funny because I feel like that's kind of how it always kind of tends to happen, where it's like we always have like some type of a moment as a child where we're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do, and then sometimes life doesn't always happen our way, but then it's like God, He always finds a way to bring you back to that purpose that He called you to do. So that's amazing that you were able to find that journey and that path back to doing what you originally felt like you were led to do.
Right, because when I got the divorce, I was working these jobs. I would say it was Time Warner Cable back then. These jobs, and I'm like I wanted to be able to provide for my son without having to, I guess, lean on others for help. So on a whim, my friend said, and this is back when people looked at the paper and found jobs in the paper. You may not know, Jordan.
I know of it, but I ain't never found no job in the paper. I say that for sure.
So then my friend was like, they're hiring for correctional officers. I was like, what is that? So then, having researched and looked into that, I was like, I always wanted to be police. So if that's something I truly want to do, I can see if I can do this correctional officer thing and then move on to that. And I did do that. I did it for 5 years and was successful at it. I was actual supervisor there too. And then back then it was a process to get on the police department, years. So then I think 3 years into being a corrections officer, that Milwaukee Police, were taking applications. So it just happened that way. It really did happen this way.
That's awesome.
That's great. Before I start talking about a little bit about the service aspect of what we do as police officers, going back just briefly to when you were 16, 17, and you were dealing with some of the things or dysfunction or whatever, what were the things that got you through during that time? Like in high school, were you into certain activities that took you away from what was going on? Were there friends that you could confide in or lean on? What got you through those times?
I did have a friend. Because I had to leave so young. I say 17, but it was like the tail end of 16. I can remember having to leave. Didn't want to leave, but I had to leave my childhood home and walking to my friend's house and thinking it's just like clear as day, like yesterday it happened, walking down the street with my belongings and saying, if you don't have your family, who do you have? And the Lord said, me. And I went to my friend's house. Her mother said, you could stay here as long as you want. I know what, I know you're a good, kid, whatever you need. She knew what I was going through. And she was like, she let me stay with them.
Isn't that a blessing?
A blessing, because I tell her I still talk to her to
I was
this
going to
day.
ask you still talk to her.
And I said, where would I be had you not let me in, or took me in,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's such a blessing. It reminds me of that, I'm sure you both know the poem Footprints. About
That's what it was?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you read your lowest, that's when I was there, I was carrying you. Yeah, I love that.
The Lord said to me.
Yeah.
And it's been that way ever since.
That's so powerful right there, because when we talk about this aspect, sometimes in life we can feel lonely and we feel like we done hit rock bottom and there's nobody else there, and it's just like kind of us doing it on your own. And honestly, although you actually really may have people around you who actually genuinely do care, it can still be those moments where it's like, man, I feel like I'm in this fight alone. So for that incident, that moment to happen, like as you're walking down the street as a young child and everything like that, almost an adult at that point, and everything, it's just like, no, you still got me by your side. And it's like, that's such a powerful thing. And is that something now that you still hold on to today, even when you get back to those moments where, because I'm sure, sometimes you go through still situations in life where things are challenging, obstacles coming your way, and you still may face difficult moments. You're like, man, like, I feel like I'm on my own, but you can always, like, hold on to it. Is that something that you still go back to?
Yes. Especially with this profession.
Yeah.
I mean, we see things, things nobody should see, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, when you go home and close your eyes and, you know, you have those images, you know, it's just like, I pray, you know, and yeah, to this day.
Being on the Milwaukee Police Department, being an officer and now a sergeant, what do you think is important for us as members of law enforcement? What is it important for us to do to make sure that we take care of ourselves, so then we don't, so that we can be there and present in moments when we need to be there for the general public? Because if you got a lot going on personally sometimes, right? Because people don't understand, and we mention this a lot, you know, and it's not an excuse when we say that you don't know what call that officer is coming from, or what we, you know, what we've seen and what is bothering us. And then we're also human. We have our personal lives as well. And again, that's no excuse. We take an oath. We serve the public. But what is it important for us as law enforcement to do to make sure we maintain our own positive attitude when we deal with the public?
Just making sure you're taking care of yourself, whether it be, because at the beginning, I say the beginning because when you're new, like for me, when I first started, I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to do the job right. And if there were overtime opportunities, you could be spending, you know, you could spend 12 hours, 18 hours, 16 hours on the job. And just being sure that you take the time, get the proper rest, you know, exercise if that's something, you know, that you like doing, but we should be exercising because it's good for our bodies and mentally.
I was just about to say.
You know, mentally, we don't, maybe we just, some people are aware that it is so good for our mental health to exercise. Like, I exercise every day now. Spending time with family or friends away, you know, that are not law enforcement, that you're not outside of work talking about work. You know, taking vacations, you know, even therapy. You know, I am a big proponent of therapy because I feel like, I don't know what the proper way to say this is, but, you know, in the Black community, we feel like if you go to therapy, like,
you weak.
or what's going on,
what's wrong with
you know,
my business,
right? So you grow up thinking that, but you know, after I had my after I got divorced, you know, I did go through a depression because I did feel like, okay, you know, my marriage didn't work and feelings about myself. So it wasn't until I went to therapy that I started to feel better, pick myself up, do what I needed to do, you know. So I am a big proponent of it. It really helped me, and I think it, you know, a lot of people should take advantage of that because it's so easy to do now with our insurance, you know, at work and stuff. So that type of stuff, you know, just making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, whatever aspect that is for an individual, you know. But for me, it's, you know, exercising, you know, spending time with my son, going on vacation, spending time with friends, you know, just
doing the things that you really like to enjoy to take your mind off of it, right?
That's great.
And it's good that you even mentioned that, Ralph, because, you know, of course you guys, it's so important for, you know, our officers to do that on a daily basis because you guys do have interactions with so many different people, and, you know, we understand that your interactions can, you know, make or break a certain person's day or situation or whatever it may be. But honestly, it's also important for us just in the community have that mentality to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, because if I'm out there broken and I'm all messed up, and I'm just gonna go out to the world and I'm gonna reflect that, and I'm gonna just be breaking other people, I'm gonna be hurting other people. So it's important that we actually spend the time to do the work within ourselves to make sure that, okay, you know what, you know, I've had a long week. Maybe my friends wanna, you know, hit me up and, you know, talking all this other stuff, but maybe sometimes you just need that rest day for yourself to spend time by yourself. Maybe, like I said, get into the word, meditate, do whatever it is that you need to do to get back grounded to like where you feel comfortable. Like, okay, now I can go out into the world and I can actually pour into people and help out rather than you know, being a broken vessel and breaking other people and stuff.
I tell my family, you know, even from the beginning, like, I cannot have any drama in my personal life because of what I deal with at work. It's, you know, you can't have both, and I won't have both. That's my, like, non-negotiable. I won't. You know?
Yeah, and you know, we've talked about this in the past also, that, you know, it's important to set boundaries.
Yes.
It's very important because as I get older, I learned that the best thing you could do sometimes for yourself is say no.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
It's funny you say as I get older, because as I'm older, I
Mhm.
finally learned to set those boundaries.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like it's just like, why didn't I do that before?
Exactly. But we like to. Well, at least I can speak for myself.
Mhm.
You like to please others.
Yeah.
Especially your family. Well, can you come over here? Or can you do this for me? Or can
Mhm.
I come do this? Or
Yes.
can I get? And sometimes it's just you have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, no, to protect your own,
Sanity, man.
sanity,
Yeah.
mental
Mental,
clarity, and take care of yourself.
And it's okay. You
And
know,
it's
that's the
okay
thing.
to do
Because you
that.
feel guilty after. Nope, it's
Yeah.
okay. You know.
And to ask yourself what's important too, even to say, even some, like a lot of times, you can attest to this, is that you get on this job and you had mentioned it. There's overtime you can get,
Mhm.
right? As what y'all young folks say now, the bag,
Gotta get the bag.
gotta get the bag. And
Catching on a little bit.
you can constantly do that, constantly, but then at what cost are you doing?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
What cost are you? Because you're gonna end up spending most on bills anyway.
Right.
Stuff you gotta pay
Right.
back anyway. But I mean, at what cost are you constantly doing that?
Mhm.
So you have to. It's very important. I'm glad you said that. And I see now that it's becoming more common for us as Black people to talk about therapy, to talk
Mhm.
about it's okay. I mean, even you look at other forums and podcasts, and
Yeah.
it's now becoming more common, which is a good thing,
Mhm.
right? Because again, that was a stigma for a long time
Yes.
within our community to talk about the willingness to go talk to someone else,
Mhm.
and if that is helpful, if that's going to be a help in you becoming the person that you want to be on
Yes.
a daily basis,
Mhm.
then you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love how when we talk about, real quick, going back to that aspect of boundary, and it's important for us, especially even as youth growing up. And my friend, she mentioned this one time where she like either reposted it or she spoke about it. And even when it comes to like text messaging and like texting people, right? People have so much access to us, whether that be through our actual cell phones or through social media. Like people have so much access to us, and sometimes when someone hits us up, sends us a text message, we think that, oh snap, I gotta respond right away and I need to get back to them and everything like that. And if you're somebody who actually generally does like pouring into people, then you have, a lot of people reaching out to you a lot of times asking for advice, asking for this and that. But it's like, again, you have to set that boundary. Not saying that you won't ever get back to them, but you like, all right, you know what, in this moment I got too much going on, I got some other things I need to prioritize. I don't need to rush this response and think that I need to get back to this person so quickly. So I just think that's so important.
It is.
I do want to touch on the topic of growth, right? I think it's important as people that we grow. As myself as being a believer, I think it's important that we're always looking to grow and learn in our walk and our faith with God. We shouldn't want to be stagnant and stay still in the things that we do and the things that we know in our knowledge and wisdom and everything like that. It seems like growth was something that was big a part for you, just even on the department where you went from being a correctional officer, then you were a supervisor, you become an officer. You traveled and you're always going and you're moving and elevating up. What was it about you that mindset that was like, you know what, I want to continue to grow in the department and the things that I do?
What was it in me?
What made you just want to continue to grow? Because some people, they can be complacent. They're fine where they're at, but there's something about you where you're always looking for, what is something I can do to better myself, to get to the next step.
I mean, when I first started, I did 5 years on the third shift at District Number 3. And I chose third shift because my son was young, and I didn't want to be, away from him, so much during the day. So I said, if I can do the third shift and, have my family, watch him at night, I could still be there during the day as much as I can. Pick him up from school, drop him off, and stuff like that. So after 5 years on the third shift, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like a zombie. So then that was when the department brought back the early power shift, which is the 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. At District Number 3, and the captain was like, submit your request to be on the shift, and he wanted the most proactive officer. So I'm glad I was proactive on the third shift. I got picked for the 11 to 7. I did that for a couple of years. I wasn't ready to promote then, So then the school patrol, they started that back up. the Office of Community Outreach and Education. So I did do that, and I'm like, school patrol, I could do that, like not knowing what it was, seeing what the job description was, and I was like, I can do that. So it was something different. I did do that for a couple of years in District 4 schools like Madison and Vincent. I liked it. It was great. It was a great time. After a couple of years of doing that, they needed a coordinator for auxiliary and Explorer programs, which is our volunteer program in the department. So I applied for that and got that. Then, after doing that for a couple of years, I was like, okay, what else can I do? So then I was ready to promote, and I became a sergeant. That's a new position. That's a new responsibility at work, so back to the late shift I go at District Number 5, and it was exciting, mentoring our younger officers. I mean, times have changed, so I feel like, helping them and helping people on the street is just like food for my soul, so I did love it for a couple of years, but here I go with this late shift again. I was like, I gotta get off this, midnight to 8, I gotta get out. So then our captain allowed me to go to 11 to 7, which was, great, worked better for me. So then, that's just how I'm now on the lieutenant's list, after being, on the crisis assessment response team, which is a great unit. I did apply for the lieutenant's position, which will come sometime next year, hopefully, God willing. And that's just the progression. It went.
That's great. Always looking for that next chapter. Always being open to growth.
Yes.
To break up that, 25 years? It does. Because when I look back, it's like, oh my God, time went by so fast.
It does, Explain just quickly, what is the responsibility and the duties of the crisis assessment and response team?
So the crisis assessment response team is a co-responder unit that pairs a officer with a clinician from Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Division. So they ride in a pair, and they respond to mental health related calls, mostly assistance from patrol officers who need the resources for this person, or assistance with a person on the street. So it's to stabilize people in the community, to get them resources, a jail diversion, and it decreases our uses of force, by, slowing things down, talking to people, de-escalating incidents, and getting people the help that they need. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome. Honestly, it was just a pleasure having you on. I appreciate you, not setting a boundary with us and not telling us as you coming on here, But no, continue to just do the amazing work that you do. You're such an amazing person. Like, every time we are able to have conversations, it's always like a blessing. It's uplifting. I know it's not only for me, but also the people that you come in contact with every single day. I just have to ask this one question real quick for the people who, especially the women out there who went through a difficult time, who struggled, and who may be, still in that rut. What are some words of advice that you could give them in this moment, or just words of encouragement that you could possibly give them?
Don't give up. There's always another way. It'll get better. I'm trying to think of when I was going through it, what I would have wanted someone to say to me, just that, today is today, we'll get through today, tomorrow is different, you can't, worry so much about, what's not here yet, focus on what is today, and,
That's good. Good, no, that's good. I appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the Joy 1340 listeners, and we will be back again next week. God bless.
Yep, God bless.